All right, let's jump right in today. We're diving deep, and I mean really deep, into Stephen King's 112263.
Ooh, this one's a good one.
It is, right. But we're not just going to hit the surface here. We're going way past just the plot. We're talking Jake Epping, time travel, JFK, the whole deal.
The big questions. Can we change the past? Should we? What happens if we do?
Exactly. And all the stuff that comes with messing around with time, the
Yeah.
ripple effects, right?
Yeah.
Unintended consequences.
The moral dilemmas.
All of that.
Yeah.
So we've got this time portal, right? The way into the past. But it's in the back of a diner. A pantry. In Maine. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Not exactly some super high-tech sci-fi thing you'd expect.
Well, I think King's doing something interesting there. You've got the normal, everyday world, and then, bam, this huge power to change history is just kind of tucked away, hidden in plain sight.
Makes you think, huh?
Right. Like, what else is hiding out there that we just don't see?
Totally. And then there's how King describes actually going through time. It's disorienting, like you're stuck between two worlds.
Yeah.
And then we have the yellow card man.
Oh, yeah, he's a creepy one. Pops up at these key moments, almost like a warning sign.
So what do you think? What's his deal? What's he supposed to represent?
People have a lot of ideas about that. Some say he's like a guardian of time, trying to stop Jake from messing things up.
Keeping things in balance.
Right. Others think he's more like Jake's own fears. You know, all that anxiety about changing the past, the enormity of it all, sort of like a manifestation of that.
Interesting. And even the color yellow, right? That's all about caution, warning signs.
Decay, even.
Yeah.
Maybe madness.
And a whole other layer there.
It does.
Okay, so Jake goes through the portal, lands in 1958 America. King really brings that whole era to life.
Yeah.
Music, clothes, even the social stuff, the good and the bad.
Absolutely. He doesn't sugarcoat it. The racism, sexism, all the problems of that time, it's right there on the page.
It's a reminder that the past wasn't perfect. Not even close.
Yeah. It adds a whole other layer of complexity to Jake's mission. Like, he's not just trying to save a president, he's stepping into a world with some serious issues.
Right, right. What stood out to you about that part of the book?
Well, King also captures this sense of hope, this feeling that anything is possible. It was a time of huge change, good and bad, like you said. And Jake, coming from the future, he sees it all with fresh eyes.
Yeah, I get that. It's like we get to see that time period through his perspective. Makes you rethink some things.
Absolutely. And it's through that lens that we're introduced to the Dunning family. This is where things get real.
Oh, for sure. The stakes get higher. The moral questions come into play.
Definitely.
So we've got Frank Dunning, the father, a seriously disturbed guy, and he's about to kill his whole family. On Halloween night, it's brutal, and Jake has a choice to make.
A huge one. Does he stand by and let it happen?
Not interfere with the past.
Right. Or does he step in, try to save them? But then what will that do to the timeline?
And he decides to intervene. He can't just stand by and do nothing.
No, but that one decision sets off this chain reaction.
The butterfly effect in full swing.
Exactly. It makes you wonder about time travel, right? Like, is there even such a thing as a good or bad action when you're messing with the past?
Yeah. And who gets to decide? Heavy stuff.
Definitely. And then we meet Lee Harvey Oswald. He's not just some one-dimensional villain in this book.
He's a real person with problems, relationships, motivations.
Right. His wife Marina, his mother, they're all part of his story. King makes you see him as a complex human being.
Forces you to think beyond the simple narratives we often have about historical events.
It's like there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface. And as we learn more about Oswald, Jake's role gets even more tangled. He's a detective, a spy, maybe even a potential savior. But it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, you can see how it starts to consume him.
Yeah.
There's the scene Jake and Oswald actually bump into each other at a Woolworth's lunch counter. So much tension there.
Oh, absolutely. It's a brilliant way to build suspense. You're just waiting for something to happen.
And it shows just how deep Jake's getting into this whole thing. It's taking a toll.
For sure. He's not just an observer anymore. He's a participant. And that comes with consequences.
So Jake's in this impossible situation, trying to stop the assassination, but also dealing with the real people around him. Their lives, their problems. It's like that line from the book, life turns on a dime. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's always that uncertainty. Like, even if you know what's supposed to happen, you can't really control things.
And that's so clear when Jake goes back to his present after saving the Dunning family. Things are different. Really different. It's not just a few small changes. It's like a whole other reality.
A scary one, too. There's this possibility of a nuclear disaster hanging over everything. It makes you think, did Jake do the right thing?
Saving one family,
Yeah.
but maybe risking the whole world.
Yeah.
Tough call. Makes you think about second chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the right to change things, even if we mean well? Especially when we don't know what might happen because of it.
Right. And Jake can't even talk to anyone about it. He's got this huge secret he has to carry around.
It's got to be lonely.
Yeah.
And then there's the yellow card man. He turns up dead. Makes you wonder if time itself is trying to stop Jake. Like it's pushing back.
Adds this whole level of paranoia to the story. Like, are there forces out there we don't understand? Forces that don't want us messing around with time?
And trying to keep things in balance, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. And then we have the green card man. He shows up again, but he's different now. Older, like, time has taken its toll on him.
It's like he's paying the price for something, right?
It's a reminder that messing with time has a cost. Maybe not just for you, but for others too.
And the weird thing is, he seems to know Jake. Even though they haven't met in this new timeline, it's like
Yeah.
their lives are connected somehow across different realities.
Yeah, it makes you think about time in a whole new way. Like it's not just a straight line, more like a web with everything connected.
And maybe some people, like the green card man, just understand that web better than the rest of us.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about Sadie. The woman Jake falls in love with in the past. Their relationship is, well, it's beautiful, but it's also kind of tragic.
Yeah, it reminds you that even with all this big historical stuff going on, the human connections are what matter, the personal stuff. And their relationship is hard because Jake has this secret. He knows he doesn't really belong there.
He's living on borrowed time, literally. And Sadie's got her own past, her own problems, like her ex-husband was abusive. It's not like the past was always some happy, simple time.
It's true. There's darkness there, too.
And then Sadie gets attacked, brutally.
Yeah.
It changes everything. Jake's mission to save Kennedy, it takes a backseat to protecting her.
He's got to choose what's more important, saving the president or saving the woman he loves.
And it's like he can't be both the time traveler and have a normal life. It just doesn't work.
Tough spot to be in.
And what's really frustrating is he realizes he could have maybe prevented the attack if he had just remembered something from Al's notes.
It shows that even with knowledge of the future, you can't control everything. There are limits.
Yeah. And then, as the day of the assassination gets closer, the tension just keeps building. Jake's memories are fading, he's running out of time, and his relationship with Sadie, it's getting harder.
Because of the secrets he's keeping?
Exactly. We know what's going to happen, but she doesn't. It's heartbreaking.
It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion.
And then finally, we reach the climax, the assassination attempt. The way King describes it, you're right there with Jake, in the crowd, feeling the tension.
It's intense.
Your heart's pounding as he confronts Oswald, gun in his hand. It's a crazy moment. Will he succeed? Can he really change history?
Big questions. And
Yeah.
then, after the confrontation.
We got to talk about what happens next. What changing this one event might mean for everything else.
Yeah. And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back. Last we left off, Jake was facing Oswald, gun in hand, ready to change the course of history. I mean, talk about a cliffhanger.
It's one of those moments where you hold your breath, waiting to see what happens. And what King does is he flips the script.
It doesn't go exactly as planned, does it?
Not quite. Jake fires, but he misses. It's like this stark reminder that no matter how much you think you know, things can go wrong. Human error, chance, fate, even.
Right. It's not the clean, heroic moment you might expect. More like real life, messy and unpredictable.
Exactly. And that missed shot throws everything into chaos. Oswald's still caught, but not by Jake. The FBI steps in.
Oh, wow. So now Jake's actions have actually brought the FBI into this whole thing. It's getting more complicated by the minute.
He's not just an observer anymore. He's tangled up in this whole historical event, and the FBI is watching him closely. He's got Agent Hosty breathing down his neck, trying to figure out what's going on.
It's like this battle between one person trying to change things and these huge institutions, these forces that are way bigger than him.
Yeah. And Hosty, he starts out skeptical, but then he gets drawn in by Jake's story. He can sense that there's more to it than meets the eye.
It's a cool dynamic between them. Suspicion, but also a kind of respect.
Yeah. And in the end, Hosty actually helps Jake escape. But not without a warning. He tells Jake that his phone is tapped, that people are watching him. He tells him to get rid of anything that could connect him to Oswald.
It's like a lifeline, but also a warning.
Right. Hosty's saying, you're in over your head, get out while you can.
And Jake's faced with this huge choice. Stay and keep fighting, or just disappear. And he decides to go back. back to 1958. Reset the timeline, undo everything.
It's a hard choice, but in a way, it's also kind of surrender. He's realizing he can't control the past, no matter how hard he tries.
It's sad, too, because it means leaving behind the life he built, the love he found with the Sadie. Sometimes letting go is the hardest thing to do.
It is. And as Jake goes back through the portal, you're left wondering, did he really change things back? Or will there always be some trace of him, some echo of what he did?
Right. It makes you think about the nature of time itself.
Definitely. And then, back in his own time, Jake sees a woman who seems familiar. It's this little hint that maybe the past isn't so easily erased. Maybe some things can't be undone.
It's like a ghost of a memory, a whisper from another timeline.
Yeah. King leaves us with that open ending, full of possibility and mystery. It makes you think about all the big questions. Time, love, whether our actions really matter in the grand scheme of things.
It's what makes 112263 such a powerful book.
Yeah,
It sticks with you, makes you think about your own choices, your own life.
it does.
So we've come to the end of our deep dive. What was the most impactful part of this journey for you?
For me, it's the idea of the butterfly effect. Even small choices can ripple out and change everything. It makes you want to be more aware, more thoughtful about the impact you have on the world.
Well said. And listeners, we want to hear from you. What would you change if you could go back in time? What would you risk? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into 11263.